Hello and welcome to the Royal Retinue review. That little squeak just appeared out of nothing. Sorry about that. This is the time of the month where I like to give something back to my Patreon and channel members, reviewing some of the minis submitted for this. For this through my again Patreon and channel members. You have to be, if you want to take part in this review, you have to be tier Miniatures or above, and we have some very special, very cool pieces to review today. So strap yourselves, because I think that this is going to be a very good one. But first of all, let me, as I usually do with these live streams, let me give a bit of advance of what is coming to the channel in the coming weeks. So instead of going back and keep doing heavy contrast videos, just for a special project, I want to kind of change the dynamic of the channel a teeny tiny bit. So I have a very big project in mind. Is this guy here with this backdrop. If you follow me on social media, on Instagram, you will have already been seeing this. And this is going to be a competition level piece in terms of paint job. So I usually don't like to paint this kind of stuff for the channel because it takes so much time and I have other videos to put out. But I've decided to divide this project into 3 or 4 different episodes. And the first one will be released next week, which will be basic building, sculpting the details on the base, like kind of a block type of series. And I'm going to also do color matching from the artwork. So I'm going to go through the artwork, color matching it to the paints that I have. And that will be episode number 1. Episode number 2 will be painting the backdrop and the base, which I think will be very cool episode. I'm going to use oils for the backdrop and some pigments. It's going to be quite different. And the third one will probably be starting the paint job, and probably the 4th one will be the finishing of it. So something a bit different, something I really want to make. So expect that, and once that is done and dusted, I will go back to the heavy contrast type of videos. But for, if I don't do this, I don't think I'm going to ever finish this project. So I think it's quite a good idea to do. So I really hope you like that. But today is the review, and as always with the Royal Retinue review, people that have been here already know, I won't be able to read your comments while I'm doing it. So if you have any questions, put them in the chat. I will go through the whole chat after the 6 entries that we have this month, and I will be reviewing everything. But I have a couple of well, one patron and one channel member. We have Chelsea and Team Orange in the chat. Welcome, guys. Thank you very much for being here. Not a lot more people here, but I really hope we are going to make the best stream possible anyway. So again, this is especially made for my lovely patrons and channel members, so as long as they are here, I am very happy. If you want to take part, as I said before at the beginning of the video, you just have to join my Patreon or become a channel member at the tier Miniatures or above, and each month you will be able to submit 1 mini or 1 unit or 1 monster, whatever you want for review, and I will be very delighted to do that for you. But today now we're going to begin with the review for this month, and we are starting with this very beautiful Sphinx by Martin. And he says that this has been his first try at doing NMM, and he can see that is something wrong there, and I agree. So let's go into look into that. And he also painted a fur texture, which looks amazing, by the way. So very good job there. I think it looks very realistic. I really like the austere vase. I still think I even if it's simple, I think it looks very good. And I really like, again, the fur texture. And this gold is a bit, we're going to touch into that, and I think that will be the first thing for reviewing here. I think the main issue is the placement of the highlights. I think there's a bit too much going on in here. So let me go and try to correct that. Let's see if I can do it, which I'm not sure. Let me go back, dial the opacity here a bit. So I'm going to take this mid brown here, and for example here I'm just going to tone. I think you went a bit too far with the shadows, at least for that such a big area. There's massive areas of shadow here, so I'm going to tone everything down, bring it all more into these mid brown, and I'm going to now go into, oh, let me, 1 second please. I knew I was missing something. Technical problems. I knew I was missing something. I was missing my bamboo tablet. Okay, let's see if we can do this now. Better. Sorry about that. I am a disaster. So then, oh yeah, much better. So let's add our shadows a bit here on the sides. I'm going to go very simple here. You will see that you can add complexity afterwards, but I think you want. I'm going to use the same colors as you did, by the way. So I'm going to take this ochre, and I'm going to place my main highlight on the thigh here, or on the leg here. I'm going to take the second brightest color, and I'm going to place it here. This is what I would do if I was painting this. And now, once you have this first sketch, I will probably take this same color. I'm going to make this smaller. And I would do something like this. These secondary reflections here, here, and here. And you can add that complexity that you did with all those shapes. You can add it now, but having like a clean slate makes a very big difference, as you can see there. So let me see if we can move from this to this. Quite a big difference, and you can go much brighter for the highlights. You can go up to pure white if you want, and I will just use this very sparingly here, for example, and maybe a dot here, dot there, dot there. So I think your main issue is placement of the highlights, and I think not going all the way into pure white for the highlights, and also going way too dark. You need a bit more midtones there. As you can see, I think this looks pretty good. So I'm going to, I'm not sure what shape this is, because it's very hard to judge, but I'm going to try and make something on the lower part of the leg as well for you. So again, we're going to erase this very dark shadows. We will add them later on, but for now I think we can skip them. Going into this very lovely ochre, and I will think I will do something like this. Sorry, I'm going to also erase this dark bit here. Just wait. I'm going to leave the edge highlights because I like them, just like that. I'm going to take this. I will probably do something like this. I'm going to take these very deep shadows. I'm I'm going to add them here and here. I'm going to take this first highlight ochre. Make it smaller. Oh, sorry. Okay, that's it. Now I need to make it smaller. Oh my god, I cannot believe that. Okay, I think that will be enough. So adding those highlights, and again, as I said, you can use this same color to add the secondary reflections, add those complexity of shapes that you were trying to draw, like that. And I'm going to take the next bright highlight. And now move into pure white and do the, no, that's not pure white. There you go. Something like that. I think that works pretty well. So I think you were on the right track. You just need to remember that you want to restrain those super dark shadows for the darkest part, and don't forget to go all the way up to the white, even if it's just some dots like here. I think it makes a very big difference overall. But yeah, and also don't try to make all those complex shapes at once. Sketch first the main highlights, like the main volumes, like I did here with this sphere and this cylinder line here, and then add all those complex secondary reflections that you wanted to make afterwards. And I think that creates a much better result overall. Maybe that's just me, but it's easier to work with if you just do the main volumes and then add all those complex reflections later on. I think I'm going to add one more here just for, because I think it would look cool. There you go. And let me check if I have another brush. Okay, now now that the gold, which was the main concern that you had, is taken care of, let's check this fur. I think the fur texture looks fantastic and really, you should be really proud of it. It's not easy to do, and you kept your lines very thin and very uniform, and also at the same time very realistic looking. But I think this is kind of your main highlight color, and then you can push it a bit more and apply this. I'm going to turn the opacity way up here, and you can apply this next highlight just to the raised parts of each muscle, just like this here. Same for here. And same for here. You get the idea. Basically what you did, but concentrating it more towards the upper sides. This doesn't need to go everywhere, but I think it's a good idea. And then you can just even go up to almost pure white and do the next one. Just like that. Don't be afraid of pushing the contrast to levels that you think will look off, because you will be surprised how much contrast you can add to your minis if you add them at the right places. So yeah, The rest looks pretty good. I think you did a good job. I think you should push the contrast more on the fur and go back and correct all the gold. As like I said, sketch the main volumes first. For example, here you did quite well. You just need to add, for example, a secondary reflection down there. That's basically it to create a realistic metallic look. Same goes for here. You should add a highlight here, here, here on the down parts, because it should be reflecting some of the earth tones, and that alone makes a whole difference, as you can see. But for the main guidelines on the non-metallic gold, restrain those super dark highlights to the very darkest spots. Use that main shadow, that main brown, as kind of a mid-tone, and then concentrate on sketching the volumes correctly first, and then adding all those complexity that you add here, which was a good idea. You just need to understand first the volumes and then all the complexity. That's at least how I do it personally. So, as you may be able to see, we've moved from this into this, which I think is a pretty good change. And again, don't be afraid of pushing the contrast. You're doing a very good job with the fur. Just take it to the next level and it will be a fantastic success. But as I said before, very good job there. So for the next step, we're going to move into look. And look, well, the picture is not the best, but this is a first time, a first for look, because this is the first time he used the airbrush, not just for priming, but to do all the gradients in the armor, which looks lovely and beautiful. And he says he's not very happy with the axe, but he likes the green armor. And what I would do to push this even more is, once you have this beautiful green, like almost neon green on the armor, it's very difficult. I think there's something like this. I will probably add something like tone yellow or something into this to create another highlight. And I'm not going to do it here because it's very confusing with all of this, but with that bright highlight from the camera here. But you can push this even further. Sorry, oh my god. And you can, for the next one, you can, once you have this gradient from dark green to bright green, you can load a very bright, you can mix something like tone yellow or ice yellow into that last green and do a final spot highlight with the airbrush. I think you should try to do that. So for example, something like here. To turn down the opacity here. So a kind of a spot highlight there. You can add even a line here. This will teach you a lot of precision with the airbrush, and I think it would be a good idea to try it out. Same here. I'm going to cover that super bright reflection from the camera. And same for here and here. That would be a good idea. Then I will suggest you go and do some recess shading. So with the same dark green that you use for the darkest part of the armor, doing a recess shade, for example. Oops, I'm going to zoom in a bit here. This is a bit too big. Let's make it small. Okay, that should be it. So just doing a recess shade across all of this with the darkest green should make everything more readable. Which I think is a good idea. So taking all the recesses, and it will also tone down that airbrushed look, which is sometimes something that you can see on airbrush models, that it really jumps out as airbrushed. But yeah, fantastic. I really like when I see people pushing their limits and starting using tools that they weren't comfortable with, or techniques that they weren't comfortable with for their minis. I think it's a great success and you should be proud. One thing that I will do probably here on the armor is try to add some tones, maybe a something like scrap brown, so an orange brown, something like this. And I think you could add this, maybe it will look good, I'm not sure. I'm going to try it. Like here on the armor, or maybe something like this dark pink, something like, yeah, something like Screamer pink. Maybe it's a bit bigger. I may turn this opacity a bit down so we can see maybe some glazes of this here and there. So here, for example, maybe around here. With this purple green. You can do that kind of stuff, add a bit more tonal variation to this. But it looks pretty good to me. And there you go. Yeah, and what I really like to do with this Nurgle minis, which fantastic conversion by the way, is I'm going to take this pink, I'm going to make it into a flesh tone, very bright flesh tone, and you can add some of this. Oops. More opacity, please. You can add some of this ridges here with the flesh tone. I think it looks pretty good for tentacles and so on. Even a line here, same for here. Instead of using pink, I suggest you try and use flesh tone. I think it serves. I think it looks better in my opinion. But yeah. For the armor and so on, I will challenge you to, for the next mini that you paint with an airbrush, like kind of this gradient, try and, after doing the main gradient, try and do some spot highlights with the airbrush, so load every light color, and do some very light touches, some very small circles in places like here, or very thin lines like this one, another one maybe here, a spot highlight here. That kind of very precision work with your airbrush, I think it will teach you something very good. That's basically what people like Ángel Giraldo does. They do the main gradient, then they do some spot highlights with the airbrush, and then they just blend it all together and finish it with the normal brush. And I think that should be a good idea for you to try. And for the axe, I think the axe looks good. I think there is two pathways here that you can take. One is make it like super rusted, like, or just try to clean it up a little bit more. So you can do some edge highlights with the brightest silver that you used around all these pits. This is option number one, and clean everything up. Something like this. Do an edge highlight here, clean this up here. But the thing is, fantastic base, so you think you just need to be finished. Or you can go the opposite way and go for rust tones. So something like scrap brown, like this. And just rust it out like a lot. So more opacity here, sorry about that. Bigger brush too. and you can add this brown wash. You can just take crack brown, thin it down with some lamine medium so it doesn't dry weird, and add a tone more rust, like a lot here. You can even do some stippling with this. You can do some washes. You can add it everywhere. You can then take some very bright orange, something like that would be probably a Troll Slayer orange, or Slayer, you know what I mean, a very bright orange, and do the same. Do more of this, more dots, more rust, more filth, something like that. I think you can go either way, or you can do both. First the edge highlights and then rust it out a lot. But yeah, I think that's the way I would go for the axe. But overall, I love seeing that you're pushing yourself, and it's really working. I would just want to see a bit more. So try what I said about the airbrush. Because I think you are going to catch it quickly, and it's going to help you a lot, improving your paint jobs massively. So thank you very much for your submission, Luke. It's been a real pleasure to review it, and let's move into the third one, which is Christopher. So we have this beautiful Spartan looking Space Marine 3D printed mini, and he said this is part of his Spartan Space Marines, like kind of living statues army, and he said this was a speed paint job, so we're going to judge it from the perspective of a speed paint job. I think the armor, as I said in the previous one, looks fantastic, so I wouldn't touch for a speed painting project. I think the armor looks really good. I think you nailed that old bronze look, and I think we should concentrate into things like and I touched this in the previous one, but you said that you did the eyes and you did the parchment wall, which is fantastic. And you know what I'm going to say, but I'm going to repeat it because I think it's important, is to paint the joints black, and then just do a simple highlight with some grays. Some grays here, some grays there, and another spot of bright grays there. Oops. Yeah, there you go. Just there on the rubber joints. I think it looks pretty good. I will do this same treatment. I will also do it on the sword scabbard, which I'm not showing here, but Christopher knows. So I will paint the scabbard for his sword in the same way, just black with some gray edge highlights. That alone does quite a lot for changing this from this kind of weird statue to a Space Marine looking thing. So I think you should just do it. I'm really glad to see that you did the parchment. You are missing some of the stats here, so I will paint them gold. Just going to say something like, don't forget them for the next time. So some stats are, you painted some and you missed some, so I'm just going to paint them for you. Those kinds of details are important. And this being you painted the eyes red, which I think is a good idea. I will probably go in and try to do another highlight in the middle of the eyes, just even if it's just for this leader, just like this, something like that. I think that's quite a lot. And this being the leader, I think you can push yourself a tiny bit, and maybe in the previous steps, maybe not now, but maybe in the previous steps, you can highlight a bit more this bronze just for him. So before you do all the washes and all the stuff like that, you can maybe do a small dry brush on the areas that you want the bronze, so you can add a bit more on the rounded surface here, maybe some stippling, maybe some dry brushing, just so you have a bit more on the edges, a bit more on stuff like that. But as I said, maybe for your next leader, for your next commander or whatever, you can try to do this to push it just a tiny bit more into the next level. Maybe some edge highlighting with a brighter paint, just to make everything a bit, you know, because for a leader you kind of want something extra. So try it. Something like maybe canoptic alloy or something like that. I don't know which colors that you have, but something like that I think will help. So as a speed painting, I think it looks fantastic. The only thing that you would need, that I think it's important, is to add the black rubber joint, and maybe just for the surgeon, just do a little bit of orange into the middle of the eyes, just to give it a bit more intensity, just because it's the leader. But I'm not showing the whole unit, but you did a great job for the unit, and I think this is going to be a great looking army, because for an army painting standard, this is fantastic. You're doing a great job, so keep on the good work, and consider this kind of improvements for the leaders and the HQ units. That's the word I was looking for. So let's move into the next one. This is the submission by Carlos, and Carlos is a special case here, because if you go and watch the previous entries for the Royal Retinue reviews, Carlos has been progressively getting better and better and better on each video. He even came to my workshop. We spent 2 days together with a one-to-one tutoring, which if you want, just ask me for one. And he went on and keep on building his skills a bit more. And this is a very great example of a massive improvement. But as with everything, we can improve it even more, and we will see a couple of things that I think he can work on. So he wanted to do like a pretty neutral type of TMM silver, which I really like, and I think he did a good job there. So the silver bits is fantastic. What I don't really like is the sword. I think you can take this silver and add a bit more midtones here to smooth it out, and you can go brighter to this kind of here and glaze it down there. As we talked about this in the tutoring, but don't be afraid of pushing the contrast further and further, and also don't rush it. I think one of the biggest issues with you, and I know I'm not mistaken, is you kind of get very impatient. So when I'm with you, you are very restrained and you do everything slowly and surely, but once you are alone, I think you go a bit nuts, and that impatience gets on with you, and you start going back to those rushed effects. So cleaning up things like this here, which is a bit messy, should be important. Working on the gradients of the sword. I think the gold looks pretty nice. I think you can do some more edge highlighting on the gold, especially, let me take some bright silver, something like this. I think you can do some thinner edge highlights on parts of the gold, for example here. There you go. And on the flesh, I think you can... I kind of like the flesh, actually. I think it looks good. Oh yeah, I knew I was wanting to talk about you a bit more. You can push the flesh a bit further still. I'm going to take something a bit more purplish looking. There you go. And you can push the contrast on the skin a bit more in these places. You know what we talk about, top of the muscles, elbow, something like that. The hand here, you can go a bit further still. Things like that. The face looks better, but you can always do a bit more if you want. And the eye, well, the eye is a bit outside of what the eye is in this mini. I know because I just painted it, so you went outside of the actual eye, but I know you have troubles with using magnification, so I kind of understand that, and I'm not going to I'm just going to mention it, but that's basically it. I really like the scratched effect that you did on the cloak, and you can even go a bit more with, especially with the darker tones, so this kind of thing. I think you can do more scratches with that, like a ton more scratches with that, because that way you kind of start building this scratchy texture, especially with the, again, with the darker highlight tones, because you can go matte with them and it's not going to be like stark or anything because it's so subtle, but it kind of builds the underlying texture of the whole cape, and it's very subtle. But did you notice the change? It kind of makes everything look not that stark. And then you went with this kind of color, and I think you probably went in, I think you can mix something in between, so something a bit darker, and do some scratches in between this, the next one and the darker ones, because I kind of feel like, for example, here it goes from this darker color into this light color. You can mix something in between those two, I think, something like this. Yeah, that feels good. And do one extra stage of scratches in between those two. I think it would be important for this piece especially. And you just do some more stippling. If you control very well the dilution of the lighter highlights, you can probably get away with not doing this. For example, in the red, it looks pretty good. But here in the darker sections, I think it will benefit. Like this. So you can see here how we move. So pretty big difference. I think this is a good idea. Also, as I said before, clean up, being neat. You know you have to work on that, so I'm just going to repeat it once more. And for example, here in the bones, you can do some lines, thin lines. That would be a good practice. Making thin lines so it doesn't look, it looks more like bony, even if it's not really necessarily realistic, but I think looks good. And for the next one, I would like for you to try and practice painting gems. I know this is very hard for you, but you did a great job here on the bottle, which I noticed. One thing you can do on this bottle to make it even better, let's take this, is take something orangey. So something maybe like Wild Rider Red, more or less, and do a line just at the edge of the liquid, right there. Just that. And as you have, if you want to push it a bit further, as you have that main highlight here, you can take something like looking at orange. You have this bright painted reflection on the glass, which is correct. What you can do is you can follow it up with, in the same place, just take looking at orange and do some kind of line like that, and boom, that's it. But you did a great job there. You weren't as lazy as I was. I would just say that, because I was when I painted this, I didn't do this. I was too lazy. But yeah, a great improvement, Carlos, and just keep pushing. And even if you feel the urge to rush things, I think you can step it down a bit and take your time with it, because you can be pretty good and very precise when you just slow down. But I know it's hard for you, so I'm not going to judge you too harshly on that. But great job, great improvement. And I would love to see more of this improvement in the next month. So great job. Let's move into the fifth one. This is Anton. And we have Anton submitted in the past month a Minotaur, which was pretty awesome. And he has applied each and every single correction that I made into this model. For example, you can see he highlighted the muscles on the topper parts instead of just in the middle, and it looks much better. And he also, especially this pink cloth, looks fantastic. Like, the highlights are where they are supposed to be. They are as big as they are supposed to be. I may add, just with this bright pink, you can add some highlights here, on the top side of these folds, and you can go here up to the very top, just like here. You're kind of getting a bit shy from the very top of the folds on the skirt here. Just that. Same as an edge highlight here on the top part, just to add definition. Those edge highlights on the very top part help with the readability. So you can see it helps reading every shape better, at least I think it does. And for the muscles, especially here on the legs, let me just point out that you have the highlights here, but it's a very rounded shape, so you shouldn't have these harsh lines. I think you can take this tone here and you can be softer with it. So the idea would be, especially for females, this is very important, is you take this and you are softer, working in softer passes like this, just like this. So this is the next step, basically, in what we talked about in the past month. You can get something brighter, something like, I think this is the color, this will be, there you go. To make it a bit brighter, there you go. So, and just be softer. And how do you are soft? You need to do glazes, basically. Or you can do stippling. I've seen very soft transitions done with stippling, but it takes a very long time. So from those very harsh lines to softer transitions, it works better for this. She doesn't have any definition at all on the muscles on the legs. It's all super soft, and I think you should work softer in this kind of areas here. One thing you can do, which a lot of people don't realize, if you can read the muscles on her belly, you can add a very thin highlight on the middle. This helps with realism, something like this. But just if the muscles have shape, and also here on the bust, on the middle, you should add a line there, just like this. You can see pictures because the skin is shiny, but this is not necessary. You need, I don't think this particular mini deserves it, but for other minis that have like more defined muscle shapes, this is very important to define, like the very thin, like the separating line should be highlighted. Same, but I would do this on the bust here, so add that highlight there. As you can see, it works because the skin is shiny, and if you, as the paint is also satin, you can see that the paint itself is making that a highlight for you, but you can do it with a brush and be a bit more pro. There you go. I think that works pretty well. And for the rest, the eyes are fantastic. The face is really good. I'm not a personal fan of the blood splattering kind of deal, but some people like it, so I'm not going to judge it. I just don't like to do it myself. But if you like that look, I think it looks pretty good. And as I said, the cloth looks fantastic. The hair looks pretty good too. Same thing, you can probably add, hair is usually shiny, so you can probably add some highlight with the brightest hair color there in the middle. I think that looks fantastic, like this. Again, helping with, you need to understand how textures reflect light, how different surfaces interact with light. And hair is very shiny, so she should have secondary reflections, essentially, in the darkest parts. Same would go probably for here and here on the darker parts of the hair to add a bit more realism. And if you, I don't know what kind of fabric you want to make this look, but as with the same theme, if you want for that top to be a bit shiny, so maybe made from some shiny fabric, you can add a secondary highlight here at the underside of the boobs, just like that, and it changes completely the whole look. It makes it look shiny. That's optional, of course. So I mean, if you want to make it look shiny, that would be the way to go. And you see that simple highlight makes a whole lot of difference. So understanding how different textures interact with light is the most important skill you can develop, basically. So have that in mind, and great improvement. Great job applying all my previous tips on the previous review for this mini. You did a fantastic job. And for the next month, I hope I can see some of these softer blends on your minis, and more understanding of how light works on the different types of textures and surfaces. So great job, Anton. And let's move into the last one. This is Tim, and this is, I mean, this is quite a treat. Tim did a fantastic job. I love her face, or his face, or its face. I really like it. I think you did a terrific job there. A lot of atmosphere, a lot of character. The whole mini itself looks great. He said that he wanted a kind of latex look for the black cloth, and I kind of get it, but I think it's missing something extra. Latex is super reflective, so I think it works, sort of, but I think it needs a bit more. And I'm just going to sketch it for you, what I would do personally. So if this is going to be latex, I will probably increase this here, and I will add another one here. I will probably add some reflection on these buttons here. Everything should be reflecting out of everything, basically, which is very tricky to do, by the way. I will probably add one highlight there. I will probably add more highlights there. I think it just needs a bit more. I think I'm going to get this. I'm going to do this, so you can make better lines. So, and each and every fold should be super shiny, because that's how latex works. But you can add even more reflections everywhere. Super shiny. This should be shiny AF, like that. You can see the difference from this to this. You can start to see what I'm talking about when you see that if you want to make it latex, you need to make it super shiny. That's what I was talking to Anton in the past entry. Especially important here at the back, because it kind of doesn't look like latex anymore. You did a good job with the boot, but this kind of looks a bit more flat. You need to add more of those broad highlights. You need to add more here. Corners, very important. Even something on the undershadows like that. You probably want something here as well. You want something here as well. Latex reflects everything, so you have a fold next to a fold. That fold needs to reflect the previous fold. So something like, for example, probably here, even here. You can go nuts and do some crazy highlighting there, something like that. Yeah, oh yeah, Tim is, yeah, I just for some reason could see the comment, yeah, in the middle of the process, yeah. I kind of guess this was a work in progress, so what a great chance to use this as reference for your highlighting later on. But yeah, you should be highlighting everything and adding reflections everywhere, because latex is super reflective. It's probably some of the shiniest black things you can have. So a big bright spot there, everything reflecting. So here, you know what to do. You have a very good understanding of light. For example, in this NMM sword here, it's fantastic. So I know you're going to do a good job, but you just need to finish it. As for the black, for the red-black armor, I think you can probably add some highlight with some grays on the darker part. I really like this red on the center and black towards the ridges, and I think you should highlight these ridges with some grays, just to make them different. So move out from the reds and highlight using some reds, some grays. I think that will look fantastic. There's nothing I can say about the face. The face is perfect, so you did a great job. There's nothing I can say about the NMM. Well, I can say something about the NMM. You can take this bone color, for example, and you can add this bone color here, because this skull should be reflecting on the sword, and I think you can do that. You have the skill to do that. Same for the red armor, which is on this side, reflecting on this side. So you can add a bit of red into there and into there. And I think that sells the effect even more. So from there to there. Work on your NMM. Your NMM is excellent already. It's fantastic. So I think you can bring it up to the next step and start adding secondary colors reflecting on your steel. So the bone color here, the red color from the armor here, those kinds of things. And I think you can do it, and I hope to see something similar in the future. But for the rest, if this is a work in progress, I just want to see it finished. So send me a picture, send a picture to the Discord once it's done, because I think it's fantastic. The rest looks great. I mean, just finish it. I want to see it finished. Oh, sorry, Chelsea. We are done now. We are going to move into live feed again. Thank you all. This was the last entry. Let's go back to the comments. Yeah, Chelsea, sorry for the Vespa. It's fucking annoying, and I know it, but there's nothing I can do. But maybe open the window and shoot and throw him something heavy at him. So let's go back to the comments. And Paul McKay asks, would you critique historical miniatures? Yes, I would. I would critique anything that you send me. I would love to critique some historical miniatures. I wouldn't probably be very good at judging if it's historically correct, but as for if it's a good or a bad paint job, or if I can work, I would improve that said paint job, I can obviously I love that. Yeah, Chris Porter said, well, he will submit whatever you submit. Yeah, I would. The Fernand model is incredible. He's talking about the Sphinx. Anyone know what range it's from? Well, the model itself is from the Warhammer, and it's a Sphinx of something or other. A Sphyrax, yeah, mine's still a Sphyrax for Warcry. As for the paints used, I have no idea, but you can do that with any colors that you want. Yeah, Tim Orange says the fur and the actual model is quite poor. The wonderful look is painted texture. Yeah, 100%. That's not on the model. The model is flat, and that is all painted in, which makes it very impressive. Yeah, the green armor looks nuclear. Yeah. Yeah, Tim Orange saying that he would desaturate the some colors to make others bright, because that's a valid criticism. Yeah. Let's just finishing reading all the comments. Yeah, I always forget about the secondaries. Well, you're not really forgetting about them. Just add them. This is the next step. Most people don't add secondary colors reflecting on steel. That's like kind of next level kind of stuff. Things that you see people like Banshee or like Magma's Clans or like Land doing. So adding all those secondary colors reflecting from the steel surface, or for people like Knife, something like that. So work on that, because you can do it, and I think it will look awesome. John has one question. Do you know which are the exact colors that the heavy metal team uses for the armor of the Death God? I would like to attempt to paint one with that style. I don't know, actually. Why don't we look up on YouTube and see if I can find something that looks similar. I'm not an expert on those. Those are not the colors that I use the most. I will say probably starting from yeah, I most definitely seeing Death Ward Forest there. Maybe some Castellan Green in Darkest Shadows. Maybe some that's Death God Green? Probably not. Maybe has some Death God Green, but I'm not sure about that. I'm not the biggest expert on those kind of draft colors. Those are colors that I just never used that much, so I cannot really tell you without testing. But yeah, I do see Death Ward Forest in there for sure. I see some Castellan Green, maybe some Elysian Green mixed in to add saturation, maybe some move into something like Green Camo for the highlights. Those sort of colors, that's the kind of ballpark that I will look for. Then I can definitely see some Rhinoxide or another Dumble Brown kind of shading going on with some glazes there. But you know, on that ballpark. Sorry, I can't be more helpful here at this. I don't control those ranges very well, if I'm honest. It's not colors that I use too much. Yeah, Green Camo, Rack of Flesh. Yeah, those colors are pretty good pointing out. Yeah, if you scroll down, it tells you which colors. Yeah, never trust that. That's not what they used. Not in the slide. This is one of my biggest criticisms. But yeah, you can add glazes of play prefix. But yeah, if you those guys that they put at the bottom in the shop when you're going to buy, you could do those suggestion colors. They are never what they say they are. Let me see what they say that you should use, and see if we are correct. So, Death Guard armor, they say start with Death Guard green, Agrax Earthshade, which I assure you they didn't use Agrax Earthshade, and they probably did something like Rhinox Hide or Dumble Brown, and then they say Elysian green, which I don't think they use Elysian green pure. Elysian green is way more saturated than that, so I'm probably it's a mix of Elysian green with another color to desaturate it, probably, and then green camo. So yeah, I'm not sure about Elysian green. I don't see it, and that could be Death Guard green. I just couldn't find it in my pot of colors, but I assure you that they didn't use Agrax Earthshade. I'm sure they use Rhinox Hide or maybe Dryad Bark to do the very careful glazes. Maybe some Dumble Brown. I see some very dark, brighter red browns there. But yeah, that would be pretty much what I would go for. Yeah, I can't find my Death Guard green, but maybe starting with Death Guard green would be a good idea, and then move in the ballpark of those Death War Forest, Elysian green, green camo is there for sure, 100%. And maybe add a little bit of Ushabti Bone into that for the final highlight. Something like that would be a good idea. So if everyone is finished, we have been here for an hour. Quite a quick one, but we had fewer entries than other months. Still pretty good. I feel that Death Guard green is too much light. Yeah, that's what I said. Castellan green, which is darker, they usually start with a mix of yeah, they do start with a mix of colors. They may say Death Guard green, but I'm sure they start with a mix of probably Death Guard green with Castellan green, or Death Guard green with Death War Forest, or just something like that. They usually have like very precise recipes for their own, but they are not going to tell you. Your best guess would probably wait for the guys at the Warhammer Plus, either Louis or the new one, which I don't know the name, but I know he is a heavy metal team member. So I'm pretty sure at some point they will do a Death Guard armor, and you will know exactly what colors they used, because they will use them there. Yeah, that's what I just said, team. But that's not what the colors that the heavy metal team uses. That's what they suggest you to use for some approximation, but it's not. Yeah, and I would probably, if I'm going to do that with contrast paints, I would probably start with Death Guard green, then probably do Mediterranean green, and then green camo and khaki, probably green camo for sure. But that would be my guess as well, yes. But I will start with a spray of Death Guard green before you do Mediterranean green, otherwise it's going to look awful. So, as I said, thank you guys for being here. Thank you to all my lovely Patreon channel members for the submissions and for all the amazing support they give me each month. And I know this may not be very much to give them something back, but it's the only way that I can. And it's this review is a true sign of love to everyone that supports me. This is for them. And if you want to take part and you want me to review your minis, whether they are historical, Warhammer 40k, fantasy, whatever you want to send me, busts, large scales, anything will be awesome. You have to join my Patreon or become a channel member from the tiers Metam or above, and each month you can submit a mini for review. So, as I said before, thank you all very much for watching. And again, special thank you to all my Patreon channel members. And I think I will catch you in the next live stream, which will be the PAB as usual at the beginning of January. No, sorry, at the end of December. I will do a PAB for December. And next week will be the first entry into a blog kind of series on how to paint a mini, from how to build, construct, color match, figure out color recipes, and all of that for a mini for competition standard. And it's going to be very exciting. So thank you all very much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.